Well, some silliness has kind of showed up here in our political game at the end of the week. First of all, we've got this bizarre story that's being beaten around between the Democrats and the Trump campaign and the U.S. Postal Service. Somehow, this idea has got out here that everybody seems to be taking seriously, which is a complete joke. And that includes Trump and the Postal Service and the Democrats. And that is that the Postal Service is going to have some difficulty delivering so-called mail-in ballots. I prefer to call them mass mail-out ballots because the only controversy in it is the mailing out, not and who gets them, not the mailing in. And but the issue that's out here is that can the Postal Service actually handle these? Well, about 136 million people voted in the last election. Well, let's just say it goes wild this year and it's 150 million this time. Probably be less, I don't know, than that number. But at any rate, let's say there's 150 million ballots that were mailed out and similar number were mailed in. That's 300 million mailings. Seriously, given the level of volume that the post office delivers, I mean, hardly a day comes by that I don't have at least 2 or 3 items of mail in my box, and unfortunately, sometimes several more. Most of them asking for money, political contributions, or wanting to sell me something, or just an ad, or whatever. And I still get my bills on paper, so I still get those. Some people get the bills electronically. I pay them electronically. Irrelevant to this discussion, who cares? But the point is, lots of mail is going out to everybody every day, as well as parcels and so forth. So the Postal Service can easily handle that volume of mail, and you don't need $25 billion more to deliver it. And I doubt the states need $3 billion to print up, mail out ballots for everybody and to count them. But if you were to do that, the problem with it is also, I'm going to have to dump a little bit on my favorite president here too. The problem is not what North Korea might do or what Russia might do or what China might do. It's really probably what the system itself would do. And that is, it would mail a ballot to every registered voter that's on the rolls in every precinct in the state that decides to adopt this system. The problem is a lot of these ballots are going to go, duplicates are going to go to addresses because rental addresses probably have several people have lived there, and when they move, they usually don't, unless they move in state and move to another location. Probably the name, the address is not transferred. Maybe it isn't even transferred if it is, but if they leave the state for sure, well, there'll be extra ballots. If they pass away, they'll probably still be mailed out to them, unless you have a state that's very scrupulous about cleaning up the rolls. And of course, if you try to clean up the rolls, what happens? Mistakes are made and legitimate voters are taken off occasionally too, which creates a little bit of backlash from our Democrat friends. So any way you look at it, it's going to be a mess, and that's why it's much better to actually have in-person voting, whether on election day or in the early voting that they have now also. And add to that factor is the question of course, absentee ballots, which is perfectly okay because there you're having a registered voter requesting a ballot, filling out a form, and getting the ballot. And again, the mail system can easily handle this volume of communication. Frankly, I think if you want to make sure your vote is counted, the smart thing to do is to vote in person. I mean, okay, if you're worried about the bug, get yourself an N95 mask, some hand sanitizer. There'll probably be socially distancing on the way in there. Vote in the early voting so that, you probably won't have as big a crowd. Pick the right time of day, vote, use a hand sanitizer carefully before you get in your car. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. This is all ridiculous. People go out to get their groceries. That people go out, probably are still going out to pick up food at the drive-through or whatever. I mean, I don't think everybody's really being isolated at home. And for the elderly, okay, go ahead and get an absentee ballot. I mean, this is a really false story. The other thing I've noted, and I'm just sitting here shaking my head at this comment that's been made by President Trump. And I don't know. I'm amazed that the press hasn't jumped on him yet, which probably shows that they're too stupid to realize what's been unleashed here. But that is, now he's got this executive order, which I think under the circumstances makes sense, where he's going to have a holiday on the payroll tax to the end of the year. and as a way to use executive powers to create a stimulus, given that the Democrats are requesting a massive $3 trillion amount, and they want a lot of money for their states that have badly managed their pension plans. Okay, but the problem is, then he asks, well, he also goes on to say, if I'm reelected, I'm going to propose permanently eliminating it. But the payroll tax is the second largest amount of income through taxation, or a revenue source, I guess you'd say in general, that the federal government gets. So what he says, well, I'm going to make it part of general revenue. Well, the biggest part, of course, the personal income tax, those corporate income taxes, tariffs, there's a few other things. Point is, how are you going to fund Social Security and Medicare without running a gigantic budget deficit unless you have an alternate form of taxation? And whatever that might be is not going to be popular. I'm sure he's not going to propose massive increases to the income tax. That just is very Republican. And I hope we're not talking sales tax, value added, or anything of the sort. Point is, I'm really worried about that because he's opened up something, and so far our Democrat friends haven't figured out what to do with it. But I'm sure they will, and this is going to be interesting talking his way out of it. I mean, if he was originally, I thought he was just saying that he was going to make the payment, because this is basically a loan, what he's doing. The people still technically owe the tax, and he was going to make the repayment permanent, meaning that the government would basically go in debt that much, another several $100 billion to cover it. And hey, we're spending money like it's out of style. But the point is, if you're really not going to maintain a payroll tax, you need to have an alternate source of revenue. And what would that be? And probably anything you propose is going to be very unpopular with somebody, and is almost certain to not go through Congress, which would be required for that, as I think everybody admits. So it is. We'll see what happens next in the political game. Right now, it looks like the latest Fox poll has Trump down 7 points, 49 to 42, 42 being Trump. Trump's popularity level on the Rasmussen's of 47 to 52, approve versus disapprove. So it's basically like it is. The conflict continues. And of course, the other great thing, Joe Biden's, everybody needs to wear a mask. Wear a mask until 90 days, until after Election Day. Isn't that beautiful? After that, I suppose we won't need to wear the mask. Well, anyway, that's all for today. Like and subscribe if you do like, and we'll have something more for you later.